I knew something was wrong the moment I put my key in the lock. The familiar resistance, the slight catch that always made me jiggle the key just so. It wasn't there. The door swung open too smoothly, like it was eager to show me what waited inside. Nothing, absolutely nothing. My apartment, the one I'd spent 3 years filling with carefully chosen furniture, art I couldn't really afford, and the small treasures I'd collected, was empty. Not messy empty, or burglarized empty. Methodically, deliberately empty. I stood frozen in the doorway, my suitcase still gripped in my hand, jet lag suddenly evaporating in a rush of adrenaline. The hardwood floors gleamed in the afternoon light, streaming through bare windows. No curtains, no couch where I'd spent countless nights watching bad reality TV with a glass of wine. No dining table where I'd hosted dinner parties that lasted until 3 a.m. "Hello?" I called out, my voice echoing against the bare walls. The sound bounced back at me, mocking. I took 3 steps inside, my boots clicking against the floor. The closet stood open, hangers gone. The bathroom, empty. Not even a forgotten bottle of shampoo or an old toothbrush. My bedroom, just indentations in the carpet where my bed had been. My phone buzzed in my pocket. With trembling fingers, I pulled it out. A text from Eliza. "Welcome home. Miss your stuff yet?" The numbness that had enveloped me cracked. A hot wave of nausea rolled through my stomach and up my throat. Eliza, my best friend since college, the person who'd hugged me goodbye at this very door 6 weeks ago, promising to water my plants and collect my mail while I was in Europe for work. The plants were gone too. I sank to the floor, my legs no longer able to support me. My mind raced, trying to make sense of this. A practical joke, a misunderstanding. But the text, that cruel, taunting text, told me everything I needed to know. I called her, straight to voicemail. "Eliza, what the fuck? Where is my stuff? Call me back right now." My voice shook, caught between rage and disbelief. I tried again, and again. Nothing. With shaking hands, I opened my banking app. The password didn't work. I reset it, waiting impatiently for the email, heart pounding against my ribs. When I finally logged in, the screen showed a balance of $212.37. Last month, there had been over $40,000. My savings, my security, my future. "No, no, no," I whispered, scrolling frantically through transactions, withdrawals, transfers, all authorized with my information. All while I was presenting marketing strategies to clients across Europe, believing my life was waiting safely for me back home. I called the bank, pacing the empty apartment, explaining in increasingly desperate tones that I hadn't authorized these transactions, that I'd been out of the country, that someone had stolen. "I'm sorry, Ms. Brewer, but these transactions were authenticated with your password, and the security questions were answered correctly. There's no evidence of fraud in our system." "But it wasn't me," I shouted, my voice bouncing off the bare walls. "I understand your frustration, but without evidence of unauthorized access." I hung up, unable to listen anymore. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Eliza. "Maybe check your credit score next." My stomach dropped. I sat back down on the floor, opened my credit monitoring app. 3 new credit cards, maxed out, a personal loan, all in my name. The room started spinning. I leaned forward, pressing my forehead against the cool hardwood floor, trying to breathe. This couldn't be happening. Not Eliza, not my best friend of 12 years. The person who'd held my hair back when I was sick, who'd helped me move into this very apartment, who knew all my passwords, because of course she did. We trusted each other completely. I'd given her my spare key. I'd shared my Netflix account. I'd told her about the promotion I was working toward, about the bonus I expected. I thought of the last night before my trip, dinner at our favorite restaurant, Eliza raising her glass in a toast to conquering Europe. "I'm so proud of you, V." Had she been planning this even then? While I was excitedly talking about the clients I'd be meeting, had she been calculating how much she could take from me? My phone rang. Jacqueline from work. I let it go to voicemail. I couldn't talk to anyone, not yet, not until I understood what was happening. I crawled to the kitchen, empty, not even a glass to fill with water, and leaned against the wall where my refrigerator used to be. The magnitude of what Eliza had done was still sinking in. Not just theft, complete erasure. She hadn't just stolen my money and possessions. She tried to erase my existence. My phone buzzed with a notification from my email. Subject line: "Congratulations on your resignation." I opened it with numb fingers. An acceptance of my resignation from the marketing firm where I'd worked for 5 years. Effective immediately. Sent 3 days ago, while I was on a plane home, believing I was returning to my life. The email blurred as tears finally came, hot and angry. Through them, I saw another text appear on my phone. "Eliza, you always said I deserved better. Now I have it. Yours. Don't bother looking for me. By the time you figure anything out, I'll be gone." In that moment, sitting on the floor of my empty apartment, I made a promise to myself. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Eliza had no idea what she'd just created. I spent that first night on the floor of my empty apartment, back pressed against the wall, knees pulled to my chest. The rage came in waves, receding only to crash back harder each time. By morning, something had crystallized inside me. A cold, sharp clarity I'd never felt before. I borrowed clothes from the emergency bag in my car and went straight to the police station. The officer behind the desk looked bored as I explained what happened. "So your roommate took your stuff?" he asked, not looking up from his computer. "Not my roommate, my friend. She was watching my place while I was in Europe." He sighed. "And you gave her a key?" "Yes, but, and your passwords?" "Some of them, yes, but, ma'am, this sounds like a civil matter. If you voluntarily gave someone access to your accounts and property." "She stole everything I own." My voice echoed through the station. Several heads turned. "She emptied my bank accounts. She resigned from my job in my name. This isn't a misunderstanding." The officer finally looked at me. "File a report. But I'll be honest, these cases are complicated. Without clear evidence of forced entry or unauthorized access, it's your word against hers." I filled out the paperwork with shaking hands, knowing it wouldn't help. By the time I left, the sun was high and harsh, matching my mood. My phone rang. Jacqueline again. "Where are you?" she demanded when I answered. "HR said you resigned, but I know that's bullshit. What's going on?" I leaned against a lamppost, suddenly exhausted. "I didn't resign. Eliza did it for me apparently, along with stealing everything I own and emptying my accounts." "What? Vanessa, what are you talking about?" "I came home to an empty apartment. Everything gone. She took it all, Jacqueline. Everything." Silence on the other end. "Then, I'm coming to get you. Where are you?" 20 minutes later, I was in Jacqueline's car, staring out the window as the city blurred past. "I warned you about her," Jacqueline said quietly. I turned to look at her. "What?" "Eliza. I warned you she wasn't trustworthy." The memory hit me like a slap. "Dinner last year," Jacqueline's voice low across the table. "I don't trust her, Vanessa. Something's off. The way she talks about your promotion, your bonus. It's like she's jealous, not happy for you." I defended Eliza fiercely. "You don't understand our friendship. We've been through everything together." "You did," I admitted. I didn't want to hear it. "What did the police say?" "Civil matter. Basically, I'm screwed." Jacqueline's apartment was everything mine used to be. Warm, lived in, safe. She made coffee while I showered, then handed me her laptop. "Start making calls. Credit card companies, banks, your landlord. I'll help." For hours we worked, reporting fraud, placing holds, explaining again and again what had happened. Most responses were the same. "We'll investigate, but since you gave her access." By evening, my throat was raw from talking, and my eyes burned from staring at screens. "I found her," Jacqueline said suddenly. I looked up. "What?" She turned her phone toward me. An Instagram post from 3 days ago. Eliza on a beach, sunglasses pushed up on her head, smiling that smile I'd trusted for years. The caption, New Beginnings. Blessed. The location tag, Cabo San Lucas. She's in Mexico, with my money. The rage I'd been suppressing all day roared back. There's more. Jacqueline hesitated. She's not alone. She scrolled to another photo. Eliza, with her arm around a woman I recognized immediately. Serenity, my mentor, at work. The woman who'd recommended me for the European project. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. The timing of my trip, the way Eliza had encouraged me to take it. It's such an opportunity, V. You can't pass it up. They planned this together, I whispered. Serenity knew exactly when I'd be gone. She probably helped Eliza resign for me. Jacqueline nodded grimly. The question is, what are you going to do about it? I stared at the photo, at Eliza's smiling face, at the arm she had wrapped around Serenity. My mentor, my friend, both betrayers. I'm going to take everything back, I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. And then I'm going to make them both regret ever knowing my name. Vanessa. No. I cut her off. Don't tell me to let it go. Don't tell me karma will get them, or the police will handle it. They won't. That's not what I was going to say. Jacqueline's eyes met mine. I was going to say you'll need help. She reached for her phone, scrolled through contacts, then handed it to me. The name on the screen. Winston. He's a tech consultant I worked with last year. Off the books kind of guy. If anyone can help you track digital footprints, it's him. I took the phone, a plan already forming in my mind. Does he owe you a favor? Several. Jacqueline's smile was sharp. And I think he'll find your situation interesting. That night, I couldn't sleep on Jacqueline's couch. I kept seeing Eliza's face in that Instagram photo. The casual confidence of someone who thought she'd gotten away with it. The smug satisfaction. I opened my laptop and created a new document. At the top, I typed, Eliza and Serenity. Underneath, I began listing everything I knew about them. Their habits, their weaknesses, their secrets, the ones they'd trusted me with over glasses of wine and late-night conversations. They thought they knew me, sweet, trusting Vanessa, who always saw the best in people, who forgave too easily, who would probably cry for a while, and then try to rebuild. They had no idea what they'd awakened. By morning, I had a plan. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't legal, and it would require me to become someone I never thought I could be. I was ready to begin. Winston wasn't what I expected. No hoodie, no basement apartment littered with energy drink cans. Just a clean-cut guy in a button-down shirt who met us at an upscale coffee shop, his MacBook looking like any other remote worker's. So, he said, after Jacqueline introduced us, you want to digitally track someone who stole your identity? And my life, I added. Everything. He nodded, sipping his Americano. Walk me through what happened. I recounted the story. The homecoming to an empty apartment, the drained accounts, the resignation letter. With each detail, his expression grew more interested, and the police said, civil matter. The words still tasted bitter. Winston leaned forward. Here's what most people don't understand about digital privacy. It doesn't exist. Not really. Every account, every transaction, every login leaves breadcrumbs. The trick is knowing how to follow them. Can you help me find her? I asked. I can do better than that. He opened his laptop. I can help you become her digital shadow. Every move she makes, you'll know about it. Every dollar she spends, you'll see it. And if you want, he paused, eyes flicking to Jacqueline. I can help you take it all back. How? I asked. Not here. He glanced around the coffee shop. Let's go somewhere more private. An hour later, we were in Winston's surprisingly normal apartment. No server racks, no wall of monitors, just a desk with 2 screens and a view of the park. First things first, he said, typing rapidly. We need to see what accounts she still has access to. I provided every password I could remember. Email accounts, social media, banking, shopping sites. She's changed most of these, Winston muttered. But she's made mistakes. People always do. His fingers flew across the keyboard. Windows opened and closed faster than I could track them. There, he said finally, pointing to the screen. She's using your Netflix account, right now, actually. I leaned closer. Sure enough, someone was streaming a show I'd never watch. Can you tell where she is? IP address is masked. She's using a VPN. He frowned. But she's logged into your iCloud from a device in Cabo. Sloppy. What does that mean for us? It means we have a starting point. He turned to me. What's your goal here, Vanessa? Just to find her? Or something more? The question hung in the air. What did I want? Justice seemed too clean a word for the churning in my gut. I want everything back, I said finally. And I want her to feel what I felt. Standing in that empty apartment, realizing someone I trusted had hollowed out my life. Winston nodded, no judgment in his eyes. Then we start by becoming invisible observers. We watch, we gather information, and when the time is right, we strike. For the next 3 days, I barely slept. Winston showed me how to track Eliza's digital footprint, credit card purchases, location check-ins, social media activity. We created a map of her movements, her spending habits, her routines. She's getting careless, Winston said, on the 3rd night. Using your credit cards openly. Look at this. Spa treatments, dinners at expensive restaurants, shopping sprees. The purchases scrolled across his screen, each one a fresh wound. And Serenity? I asked. Harder to track, more careful, but they're definitely together. He showed me another Instagram post, just a glimpse of Serenity's distinctive silver bracelet in the corner of a photo Eliza had posted. I trusted her, I whispered. Serenity was the one who pushed for me to get that European assignment. She mentored me for years. Only to help set you up, Winston finished. That's cold. I stared at the screen, at the evidence of their betrayal laid out in data points and timestamps. How do we get my money back? Winston hesitated. That's where this gets complicated, legally complicated. I don't care. You should. His voice was gentle but firm. Crossing certain lines means you can't go back. They cross those lines first. And that makes it justified? He turned to face me fully. I'm not judging. I'm asking what you can live with. The question hit harder than I expected. What could I live with? The answer had seemed so clear in the white-hot center of my rage. Now, faced with actual choices, actual consequences. I need to think, I said. That night, alone in Jacqueline's guest room, I couldn't sleep. I scrolled through old photos on my phone. Eliza and me at college graduation, arms around each other. Serenity and me at the company holiday party, both laughing at some forgotten joke. Had it all been fake? Every moment, every conversation, every shared secret. Had they been calculating even then? My phone buzzed with a text from Winston. Found something. Call me when you wake up. I called immediately. Eliza's coming back, he said without preamble. She booked a flight to Newark for next Tuesday. Why would she come back? My heart raced. She has to know I'll be looking for her. That's not all. I heard typing in the background. She's been emailing with someone named Otto. Romantic emails. Plans to meet when she returns. Otto? The name wasn't familiar. Who is he? I don't know yet. But he seems important to her. Very important. A new piece of the puzzle. Someone Eliza cared about. Someone she was willing to risk returning for. Find out everything about him, I said, a new plan forming. Everything. Already on it. Winston paused. There's something else. I found emails between Eliza and Serenity from before your trip. They weren't just planning to take your money, Vanessa. What do you mean? They were after something specific, something you have access to at work. Client information, maybe. The emails are vague, but they mentioned the real prize repeatedly. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just personal betrayal. It was something bigger. I need to get back into the company system, I said. Can you help me? I can try. But we'll need to be careful. If they're after corporate data, this just became much more serious. I ended the call and stared out the window at the city lights. The hurt and rage were still there, but now something else burned alongside them. Curiosity. What were Eliza and Serenity really after, and how could I use it against them? For the first time since coming home to my empty apartment, I felt a flicker of something like power. They thought they'd left me with nothing. They were about to discover how dangerous nothing could be. "This doesn't feel right," Winston said, not looking up from his laptop. We were in his apartment again, the glow of multiple screens illuminating his frown. "Accessing your company's servers is one thing, but what you're suggesting is exactly what they did to me," I finished. "They didn't hesitate to destroy my life. Why should I hesitate to return the favor?" Winston finally met my eyes. "Because once you cross this line, you become something different, someone different." "I'm already different." I gestured to the borrowed clothes I'd been living in for days. "They made sure of that." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'll help you get into the system. What you do after that is your call." For the next hour, we worked in silence. Winston bypassing security protocols, while I made notes about what to look for, client lists, project details, anything that might explain what Eliza and Serenity were really after. "I'm in," he said finally. "You've got about 20 minutes before the system flags the unusual access." I took his place at the keyboard, navigating to my work folders. Everything looked untouched, which made no sense. If they wanted company data, why leave it all here? Then I saw it, a folder labeled European Initiative that I hadn't created. Inside were copies of all my presentation materials, client contacts, and project proposals from my trip. "They didn't delete my work," I murmured. "They copied it." Winston leaned over my shoulder. "Can you tell what they were specifically targeting?" I scanned through the files, looking for patterns. One name kept appearing in my most accessed documents: Meridian Global. "This client," I said, pointing. "They're one of our biggest accounts." I was finalizing a major expansion of their European marketing strategy. Worth a lot of money. Millions. The realization hit me, and I was the primary contact. If I suddenly resigned, whoever took over my accounts would have access to all my client relationships. Let me guess, Serenity. I navigated to the company directory. Sure enough, Serenity was now listed as the lead on all my former accounts, including Meridian Global. "She's positioning herself to steal the client," I said, the pieces clicking together. That's why they needed me out of the way. It wasn't just about my money. It was about my career, my connections. "Can you prove it?" I downloaded everything I could find: emails, meeting notes, calendar invites showing the timeline of their plan. 10 minutes left, Winston warned. I worked faster, digging deeper into Serenity's communications. And then I found something that made my blood run cold. "Winston," I whispered, "look at this. An email chain between Serenity and someone at a competing agency, discussing how to transition Meridian Global's business away from my firm." The language was careful, coded, but the intent was clear: corporate espionage. "This is bigger than just screwing you over," Winston said. "This is illegal, like federal charges illegal." I downloaded the emails, my mind racing. "We need to—" A notification popped up on screen. "Unusual access detected. System lockout in 60 seconds. "Time's up," Winston said, quickly disconnecting. "Did you get everything?" I nodded, clutching the flash drive. "Enough to understand what they're really doing. Enough to stop them. Vanessa." Winston's voice was serious. "This changes things. If they're involved in corporate espionage, these aren't just people who screwed you over. They're criminals with a lot to lose if caught." "Good," I said. "That gives me leverage. It also makes them dangerous." He closed his laptop. "We need to be careful how we proceed." My phone rang. "Jacqueline, where are you?" she asked when I answered. "I've been trying to reach you all morning. With Winston, we found something big." "Well, I found something too. Or someone, rather." Her voice dropped. "Otto, Eliza's new boyfriend." My pulse quickened. "What about him?" "He works at Meridian Global. Senior Marketing Director. The final piece of the puzzle slid into place. They're using him to facilitate the client transfer. Exactly. And here's the kicker. He has no idea who Eliza really is. From what I can gather, they met online while you were in Europe. He thinks she's some hotshot marketing consultant. Does he know about me? Doubt it, but he's about to. I could hear the smile in Jacqueline's voice. I set up a meeting with him tomorrow. Professional consultation, off the books. He has no idea I work at your firm. Jacqueline, that's risky, yes, but so is what you're doing. Her tone turned serious. We're in this together, Vanessa. You're not the only one Serenity has screwed over. After we hung up, I sat in silence, processing everything. The scope of Eliza and Serenity's betrayal was expanding beyond personal vengeance into something that could destroy multiple careers, companies, lives. You okay? Winston asked quietly. No, I admitted. I thought this was just about me, about what they took from me, but it's so much bigger. Does that change what you want to do? I stared at the flash drive in my hand. I could take this to the police now, to my company's legal team. There would be investigations, possibly arrests. But would I get justice? Would I get back what was taken from me? No, I said finally. It doesn't change anything. It just raises the stakes. Winston nodded slowly. Then we need to be smarter than they are, more careful. And we need to move fast. Eliza's flight lands tomorrow. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Otto, this stranger who had somehow become entangled in my story. Was he an innocent pawn in their game, or another conspirator? Either way, he was now a piece on the board, a piece I could use. I pulled out my phone and typed a message to Jacqueline. For your meeting with Otto tomorrow, wear the recording device Winston gave you. I want to hear everything. Her reply came seconds later. Already planned on it. Get some sleep, V. Tomorrow we start fighting back. I set down my phone and stared at the ceiling, a strange calm settling over me. For days, I'd been reacting to shock, to betrayal, to loss. Now, finally, I was acting, setting things in motion that couldn't be undone. Whatever happened next, I wouldn't be the victim anymore. He's here. Jacqueline's voice came through my earpiece, slightly distorted. I sat in Winston's car, across the street from the cafe, watching through tinted windows as a tall man in a tailored suit approached the entrance. Otto. In person, he looked even more polished than in the photos Winston had found. Confident stride, expensive watch catching the sunlight, the kind of man who belonged in boardrooms making million-dollar decisions, the kind of man Eliza would target. Remember, Winston said from the driver's seat, adjusting the recording equipment, we're just gathering information. Don't let Jacqueline push too hard. I nodded, though my instinct screamed to confront Otto directly, to demand answers about Eliza, about Meridian Global, about everything. Through our audio feed, I heard Jacqueline greet him warmly. Introductions, small talk about the weather, then smoothly transitioning to business. I appreciate you meeting off the record like this, she said. Sometimes these conversations are better had outside official channels. Absolutely, Otto replied, his voice deep and measured. Though I admit, I'm curious why a marketing strategist from a competing agency wants to discuss Meridian's business. Professional courtesy, Jacqueline said smoothly. I've heard rumors about Meridian considering a change in representation. Given my expertise in the European market, I thought I might offer some perspective. A pause. I could picture Otto weighing his response, deciding how much to reveal. We're always evaluating our options, he said finally, but I'm not at liberty to discuss specifics. Of course, though I imagine your new consultant has been quite persuasive. Eliza, isn't it? My breath caught. Beside me, Winston tensed. How do you know about Eliza? Otto's voice had cooled considerably. Our industry is small. Word travels. Jacqueline's tone remained casual. I understand she's been instrumental in suggesting alternative agency representation. Eliza is a personal relationship, not a professional one. Are you sure about that? Another pause. longer this time. What exactly are you implying? Only that mixing business with pleasure can be complicated, especially when you don't know everything about the person you're involved with. I think this meeting is over. The scrape of a chair being pushed back. Before you go, Jacqueline's voice dropped. Have you ever wondered why Eliza is so interested in your Meridian work, or why she appeared in your life right when your company was considering a change in agencies? Who are you really? Otto demanded. Someone who thinks you deserve to know who you're really dealing with. Eliza isn't who she claims to be. This is getting dangerous, Winston muttered, reaching for the car door. I'm pulling Jacqueline out. Wait. I grabbed his arm. Listen. I don't know what game you're playing, Otto was saying, but I suggest you stop, now. Not a game, a warning. Jacqueline's voice remained steady. Ask Eliza about Vanessa Brewer. Ask her about the apartment she emptied and the accounts she drained. Ask her about Serenity and their plans for Meridian Global. Silence. Then, how do you know Vanessa? My heart stopped. He knew my name. She's my colleague, my friend, and Eliza destroyed her life. That's not. Otto stopped. Vanessa is in Europe, on extended leave. Is that what Eliza told you? What Serenity confirmed? Jacqueline's voice hardened. They're lying. Vanessa returned a week ago to find everything she owned gone. Her money stolen. Her job resigned in her name. This is insane, Otto said. But uncertainty had crept into his voice. Check for yourself. Call Vanessa's number. Ask around at her firm. Better yet, ask Eliza directly. Watch her face when you say Vanessa's name. The audio feed went silent for several seconds. Then Otto spoke, his voice tight. If what you're saying is true, it is. Then I need proof. Not accusations from a stranger in a cafe. Fair enough. Jacqueline's tone softened. My contact information is on that card. When you're ready to see the evidence, call me. Through the window, I watched Otto exit the cafe, his face troubled. He paused on the sidewalk, pulled out his phone, and made a call. He's calling Eliza, Winston said. Want to bet? I nodded, unable to speak. Seeing Otto in person had made this all more real somehow, more complicated. He didn't look like a co-conspirator. He looked like another victim. Winston started the car. We should go before he spots us. As we pulled away, my phone buzzed with a text from Jacqueline. He took the bait. Now we wait. But we didn't have to wait long. That evening, as Winston and I reviewed the audio recording, my phone rang with an unknown number. Hello, I answered cautiously. Is this Vanessa Brewer? Otto's voice. My eyes met Winston's. He nodded encouragingly. Yes, I said. Who's asking? My name is Otto Bradley. We need to talk. His voice was controlled but tense. About Eliza and Serenity. I'm listening. Not over the phone, in person. He paused. I've seen some emails. Things that don't make sense, unless what your friend told me is true. My pulse quickened. What kind of emails? Between Eliza and Serenity. About you. About Meridian. Another pause. About me. Winston scribbled on a notepad. Careful. Could be trap. Why should I trust you? I asked. You shouldn't. Otto replied bluntly. Just like I shouldn't trust you. But if we're both being played, doesn't it make sense to compare notes? I considered my options. Meeting Otto was risky, but it also might be my best chance to understand the full scope of Eliza and Serenity's plan. When and where? I asked finally. Tomorrow, noon. The botanical garden in the Central Park. Public enough to be safe for both of us. After we hung up, Winston looked at me gravely. You know this changes everything, right? If Otto's really in the dark, he's not an enemy. He's a potential ally. Or he's working with them, trying to find out how much we know. Either way, meeting him is dangerous. Winston closed his laptop. Eliza lands tomorrow morning. If Otto tells her about your conversation, the implication hung in the air. Eliza would know I was on to her. The element of surprise, my one advantage, would be gone. I have to take the risk, I said. If Otto really doesn't know what they're doing, he deserves the truth. And if he's part of it, I met Winston's concerned gaze. Then I need to know that too. That night, I dreamed of my empty apartment. But this time, Eliza wasn't alone. Otto stood beside her, both of them laughing, as they carried out my life piece by piece. I woke, in a cold sweat, the dream still vivid. For the first time since this began, I questioned my own judgment. Was I seeing connections that weren't there, creating villains out of everyone associated with Eliza? Or was I finally seeing clearly the web that had been spun around me all along? Tomorrow would bring answers, and with them, a point of no return. The botanical garden was quiet for a weekday noon. Just a few tourists and mothers, with strollers wandering the paths. I'd arrived 30 minutes early, Winston's warnings echoing in my head. Don't sit with your back to any entrance. Keep your phone recording. If anything feels wrong, leave immediately. I chose a bench near the orchid display, positioned to see anyone approaching from either direction. The recording app on my phone was running, tucked discreetly in my jacket pocket. At exactly noon, Otto appeared at the east entrance. He paused, scanning the garden, until his eyes found me. Even from a distance, I could see the tension in his shoulders, the careful way he surveyed our surroundings before approaching. He was being cautious, too. Interesting. Vanessa, he asked, stopping a few feet away. I nodded. Otto. He sat beside me, leaving a careful distance between us. Up close, he looked exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes, his normally impeccable appearance slightly rumpled. I didn't sleep last night, he said, as if reading my thoughts. After your friend approached me, I did some digging, made some calls. And it seems Vanessa Brewer did not in fact resign to extend her European trip. His eyes met mine, searching. She returned to find her apartment emptied and her accounts drained. That's right. By Eliza, it wasn't a question. And Serenity, I added. They worked together. Otto ran a hand over his face. I've been seeing Eliza for almost 2 months. Met her at an industry mixer. She said she was a marketing consultant who'd just moved to the city. He gave a bitter laugh. I believed every word. We all did, I said quietly. That's how she operates. He pulled out his phone, unlocked it, and handed it to me. These are the emails I found. Between Eliza and Serenity. I scrolled through them, my stomach tightening. The emails were explicit, detailed discussions of how to use Otto to facilitate Meridian Global's transfer to their partner agency, how to ensure I was out of the picture, how to maximize their financial gain. There's more, Otto said. Keep scrolling. I did, and froze when I saw my name. V's apartment cleared out. Everything of value in storage. Will sell once things cool down. Accounts drained. She'll be too busy trying to survive to cause problems. Serenity's response. Perfect. Otto's completely under control. He has no idea you're using him. Once the Meridian deal closes, we'll have our commission and be long gone. My hands shook as I handed the phone back. When did you find these? Last night. After your friend approached me. Otto's jaw tightened. Eliza gave me her laptop password weeks ago. I never had a reason to use it until now. And you're showing me this because I've been played for a fool. His voice was controlled, but I could hear the rage underneath. And I want to know what you're planning to do about it. I studied him, looking for any sign of deception. How do I know this isn't a trap? That you're not working with them to find out how much I know? You don't. He met my gaze directly. Just like I don't know if you're really who you claim to be. But those emails are real. And if they're using both of us, doesn't it make sense to work together? The sincerity in his eyes seemed genuine. But then, so had Eliza's. So had Serenity's. Eliza landed this morning, I said, watching his reaction carefully. Did you tell her about meeting me? No, I told her I had meetings all day. His expression darkened. She's staying at my apartment, using my Wi-Fi, my security system. An idea sparked. Your security system. Does it have cameras? Inside and out. I can access them remotely. So you can see what she's doing right now. Otto pulled out his phone again, opened an app, and handed it to me. On screen was a live feed of a sleek apartment. Eliza sat on a couch, laptop open, phone to her ear. Even with the sound muted, I could see she was agitated, pacing occasionally. "Can you turn on the sound?" I asked. Otto tapped the screen. Eliza's voice filled the air between us. "Don't care what he said. Find out what Vanessa knows." A pause. "No, Otto doesn't suspect anything. He thinks I'm in love with him." A harsh laugh. "Just make sure everything's ready for the Meridian meeting tomorrow. Once they sign with the new agency, we get our cut, and this is all over." I handed the phone back, my decision made. "I have a plan, but I need your help." "What kind of plan?" "The kind that gets us both what we want. You keep your client and your reputation. I get my life back." I leaned closer, "and they get exactly what they deserve." Otto's expression hardened. "I'm listening." For the next 20 minutes, I outlined what I had in mind. As I spoke, Otto's initial skepticism gave way to grim appreciation. "It's risky," he said when I finished. "If they realize what we're doing." "They won't. They're too confident, too sure they've won." I stood up. "But we need to move fast. The Meridian meeting is tomorrow." Otto nodded, standing as well. "I'll handle my end." "But Vanessa," he hesitated. "Are you sure about this? Once we start, there's no going back." The question gave me pause. Was I sure? This plan crossed lines I'd never imagined crossing before. It made me no better than Eliza, in some ways. But then I remembered my empty apartment, the hollow feeling of standing in that space that had once been mine, now stripped of everything that made it home. The casual cruelty of Eliza's texts. "I'm sure," I said firmly. "They didn't give me a choice when they took everything from me. Now I'm not giving them one either." As we parted ways, my phone buzzed with a text from Winston. "Where are you? Jacqueline and I are worried." I typed back, "Meeting went well. Otto's with us. Plan in motion. Meet me at your place in an hour." Then I turned my phone off and headed toward the garden exit, a strange calm settling over me. For days, I'd been reacting to Eliza and Serenity's moves, always one step behind. Now finally, I was the one setting the trap. Tomorrow they would walk right into it. The Meridian Global Conference Room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. 40 floors up, everything below looked small, insignificant. I wondered if that's how Eliza and Serenity saw me. Just another tiny figure they could crush without consequence. Not today. I adjusted the collar of my borrowed blazer, feeling the weight of Otto's security badge clipped to my pocket. The conference room was empty, the meeting not scheduled to start for another 30 minutes. Plenty of time. My phone buzzed. "Winston." Security cameras looped. "You're invisible for the next 20 minutes. I moved quickly to the head of the table, plugging a small device into the HDMI port of the presentation system. Winston had created it, a remote override that would give us control of the screens when needed. Another text, this time from Jacqueline. "In position at the firm, legal team standing by." Everything was in place. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the thundering of my heart. After days of planning, of careful coordination, the moment was almost here. I heard voices in the hallway and slipped into the adjacent break room, leaving the door cracked just enough to see through. Otto entered first, followed by 3 Meridian executives I didn't recognize. Behind them came Serenity, elegant in a charcoal suit, her silver bracelet catching the light. And finally, Eliza. Seeing her in person, after everything that had happened, sent a jolt through me. She looked exactly the same. Confident smile, perfectly styled hair, designer clothes, probably bought with my money. She carried herself like someone who had never faced consequences for her actions. That was about to change. Otto made introductions, his performance flawless. No one would guess he was anything but the consummate professional, eager to finalize Meridian's new agency partnership. "Before we begin," he said, "I'd like to introduce Eliza Patterson, a marketing consultant who's been instrumental in helping us evaluate our options." Eliza smiled, accepting the acknowledgement with practiced modesty. I'm just happy to help Meridian find the right partnership. And Serenity Diaz, Otto continued, who will be leading the account team at the new agency. Serenity stepped forward. We're thrilled about this opportunity. I've prepared a presentation outlining our transition plan. As she moved to connect her laptop, Otto caught my eye through the crack in the door. The signal. I texted Winston. Now. The conference room lights dimmed slightly as the large screen at the front of the room came to life. Instead of Serenity's presentation, a single image appeared. My empty apartment. The photo I'd taken that first day back. Confusion rippled through the room. I'm sorry, Serenity said, flustered. That's not my presentation. She tried to disconnect her laptop, but the image remained. Then it changed to another. Bank statements showing massive withdrawals, all dated during my time in Europe. What is this? One of the executives asked. The screen changed again. Now it showed emails, the ones between Eliza and Serenity, discussing their plan, their scheme to use Otto, their intention to steal Meridian's business. Serenity's face drained of color. Otto, there's been some mistake, has there? Otto's voice was ice. Because it seems like the only mistake was trusting either of you. Eliza's eyes darted around the room, her composure cracking. This is some kind of hack. Someone's trying to sabotage the meeting. Someone like Vanessa, Otto asked quietly. At my name, Eliza froze. Her eyes widened in genuine fear. That was my cue. I pushed the door open and stepped into the conference room. Hello, Eliza, I said. My voice was steadier than I expected. Surprised to see me, the shock on her face was everything I'd imagined. For a second, she actually took a step back. Vanessa, she managed. What are you doing here? Reclaiming what's mine. I moved to stand beside Otto. Starting with the truth, Serenity recovered first. Gentlemen, I can explain. Vanessa is a former colleague who was terminated for... Save it, I cut her off. They've already seen the emails. They know exactly what you two were planning. The Meridian executives were on their feet now, expressions ranging from confusion to anger. Otto, one of them said. What's going on here? Corporate espionage, Otto replied calmly. Serenity and Eliza plan to manipulate Meridian into changing agencies, securing themselves substantial commissions in the process. They eliminated Vanessa, your actual account manager, to facilitate the scheme. That's absurd, Eliza said. But her voice wavered. Her eyes kept darting to the screen, where her own words condemned her. I stepped closer to her. You took everything from me. My home, my money, my job. Did you think I'd just disappear? It wasn't personal, she said, almost automatically. The audacity of those words hit me like a physical blow. Wasn't personal. You emptied my apartment. You drained my accounts. You texted me to gloat about it. My voice rose, despite my efforts to control it. You were my best friend for 12 years. Something flickered across Eliza's face. Not remorse, exactly, but discomfort. For the first time, she seemed to recognize the magnitude of what she'd done. You always had everything handed to you, she said quietly. The promotions, the recognition, the perfect life. I just took what I deserved. What you deserved. The rage I'd been containing for days threatened to explode. You deserved my trust, my friendship, the life I built. Before she could answer, the conference room door opened again. Jacqueline entered, followed by two men in suits. Serenity Diaz and Eliza Patterson? One of them asked. I'm Detective Morris. This is Detective Reyes. We'd like to ask you some questions about allegations of identity theft, fraud, and corporate espionage. Serenity's composure shattered completely. This is a misunderstanding. Save it for your lawyer, Jacqueline said, coldly. The firm has already filed charges, and trust me, they're going to make an example of you both. As the detectives led Eliza and Serenity out, Eliza turned to look at me one last time. In her eyes, I saw something unexpected, not hatred or defiance, but a flicker of respect. I didn't think you had it in you, she said softly. Guess I underestimated you. Everyone did, I replied. When they were gone, the room fell silent. The Meridian executives looked shell-shocked. Otto cleared his throat. Gentlemen, I suggest we reschedule this meeting. In the meantime, I can assure you that Meridian's relationship with our current agency remains secure. As they filed out, murmuring among themselves, Otto turned to me. You okay? I nodded, though I wasn't sure if it was true. The confrontation had left me drained, hollow. I'd imagined this moment for days, seeing the look on Eliza's face, watching her plans crumble. But now that it had happened, I felt no triumph, only exhaustion. It's over, Jacqueline said, squeezing my shoulder. They can't hurt you anymore. But as I looked around the now empty conference room, at the evidence of betrayal still displayed on the screen, I wasn't so sure. Some wounds don't heal just because justice is served. Some betrayals change you forever. The key felt strange in my hand as I stood outside my apartment door. New locks, new key, same old door. I hesitated before turning it, unsure what I'd feel stepping into that space again. Empty rooms had haunted my dreams for weeks. Need a minute? Winston asked, setting down the box he was carrying. I shook my head. No, I'm ready. The door swung open to reveal bare floors, blank walls, and sunlight streaming through uncovered windows. Still empty, but different now. This emptiness was a beginning, not an ending. Home sweet home, Jacqueline said, brushing past me with a lamp in her arms. Or it will be, once we get all this stuff inside. Behind us, the hallway was lined with boxes and furniture. Not my old possessions, which were long gone, but new things, a fresh start. Where do you want this? Otto asked, struggling with a coffee table. Living room, I directed, against the wall for now. For the next few hours, we worked together, filling the apartment piece by piece. A couch here, bookshelves there, each item carefully chosen, each placement deliberate. This time, I was building my space with intention, not just accumulating things. By evening, the apartment had taken shape. Not finished, but livable. We collapsed onto the new couch, sharing pizza and beer, exhausted but satisfied. To new beginnings, Jacqueline toasted, raising her bottle. And to old friends who show up when it matters, I added, looking at each of them in turn. The conversation flowed easily, punctuated by laughter that gradually erased the echoes of emptiness. As night fell, Jacqueline and Winston said their goodbyes, leaving Otto and me alone. I should go too, he said, gathering his jacket. Stay, I found myself saying, just for a while. We sat in comfortable silence, the city lights twinkling through the windows. Have you heard anything? He asked finally. I knew what he meant. Eliza took a plea deal, 2 years, plus restitution. Serenity's still fighting the charges, but her lawyer is pushing for a deal too. Do you think the punishment fits the crime? I considered the question. No punishment would undo what they did. But it's not about that anymore. What is it about then? Moving forward, I said simply. Building something new. Otto nodded, understanding in his eyes. Over the past weeks, as we'd worked together to build the case against Eliza and Serenity, something unexpected had grown between us. Not romance, we were both too damaged for that right now, but a connection forged in shared betrayal and recovery. I have something for you, he said. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out a small flash drive. The last of the evidence, everything we gathered. I thought you might want to decide what to do with it. I took it, feeling its weight in my palm. Why give this to me? Because you've earned the right to choose how this ends. His eyes met mine. For yourself, at least. After he left, I sat alone in my new living room, turning the flash drive over in my hands. It contained everything. The emails, the bank records, the security footage. All the evidence of Eliza's betrayal, of Serenity's calculation, of the moment my life had been torn apart. My laptop sat on the coffee table. I opened it, inserted the drive, and watched as the files populated the screen. So much pain contained in these digital fragments. My finger hovered over the delete button. Would erasing these files help me move on? Or would it be another form of erasure, pretending the betrayal had never happened? I closed the laptop without deciding. Some choices couldn't be rushed. Morning found me at the coffee shop near my old office, waiting, my hands wrapped around a mug for warmth, or perhaps for comfort. When the bell above the door jingled, I looked up. Mary, my former colleague, spotted me and came over. Her smile was tentative, uncertain. "Thanks for meeting me," I said as she sat down. "Of course," she studied my face. "You look better than the last time I saw you." "I feel better." I took a sip of coffee. "I wanted to thank you for testifying. I know it wasn't easy going against Serenity." Mary shrugged. "It was the right thing to do. I just wish I'd spoken up sooner, when I first noticed things weren't right." "You couldn't have known what they were planning." "Neither could you." Her eyes were kind. "None of us saw it coming. We talked for an hour about the case, about the firm, about the future." Mary mentioned an opening at her new company. I promised to think about it. As we were saying goodbye, she hesitated. "Have you talked to Eliza since the sentencing?" "No." The thought had crossed my mind, but I'd pushed it away. "I don't think I'm ready for that." "Would you ever be?" "Ready, I mean." The question followed me as I walked home, through a city that no longer felt hostile. Would I ever be ready to face Eliza again, to hear her explanations or justifications, to look into the eyes of someone who had known me so well and still chosen to destroy me? In my apartment, I went straight to my laptop and opened the flash drive again. All the evidence, all the pain, all the betrayal, still there, waiting for my decision. I created a new folder on my hard drive, labeled Past, and transferred the files there. Not deleted, not dwelled upon, just stored away. Part of my history, but not my present. Then I opened a blank document and began to type. "Dear Eliza, I'm not writing to forgive you. I'm not sure that's possible or even necessary. I'm writing because for 12 years, you were the person I told everything to. And now, ironically, you're the only one who would understand what I've been through. You took everything from me, my possessions, my security, my trust. But here's what you didn't take: my resilience, my ability to rebuild, my future. I won't be visiting you. I won't be waiting when you get out. This letter isn't the beginning of a reconciliation. It's the end of a chapter. You taught me the hardest lesson of my life. And for that, just that, I thank you. I didn't sign it, didn't print it, didn't send it. The act of writing was enough, acknowledging the pain without letting it define me." Outside my window, the city continued its relentless rhythm. Inside, in this space that was mine again, different but mine, I felt something I hadn't expected to feel so soon. Not happiness exactly, not yet, but possibility, the quiet certainty that emptiness, like fullness, is temporary, that what defines us isn't what we lose, but what we choose to build in its place. I closed my laptop and went to unpack another box.